Welcome to this edition of 60 Minutes. I'm Dan Rathers.
This is Morrison Madness. I'm Lachelle Morrison.
I'm Don.
We are going to talk about our conference. We went on a conference to Las Vegas. If you're just tuning in, if this is your first episode.
A wedding conference.
Yeah, it's called WMBA.
So it's for people who provide any type of vendor service to the wedding industry. So florists, photographers, videographers, DJs, MCs, venues, dresses, linens, caterers,
the dresses,
event planners.
The dresses and linens were more in the exhibition centers. The conference classes were primarily DJ, planners, vendors, florists, caterers.
But there were people there from those industries because I talked to people that were there from the linen industry.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Okay, that were taking the courses.
So they had a rental.
Oh, sure.
Thing. They weren't a venue, but they rented to venues.
Sure.
So they were there.
That makes sense. Okay, makes sense. But yeah, so the courses were there to kind of help individuals within those different areas. You did a lot of the DJ courses. I did more of the planning courses. I actually am getting a certification now. I've gone to enough courses that I get a certification for planners. So that'll be going up on our website at some point.
Yeah, I feel like if you went to as many courses as you could each day, you could go to a total of, I think, like 20 courses.
Yeah, something like that. And you could technically, there's 3 levels, and I only did the first level. But then there's a second level, and then the third level you can't do until next year if you haven't already had previous levels.
Right.
But they said that you could technically get 2 levels done by, like, the end of the year, end of 2021 if you wanted. You couldn't quite get 2 of them done at the conference, but you could do the first level at the conference, part of the second level, and then part of the second level also had to be online or something.
So we went to this thing thinking that I was going to learn about things that would help me as a DJ or some other aspect of what we do. Didn't know if there would be other classes besides what was listed.
Right.
And then you were going to focus primarily on event planning,
right,
event coordinating. And so we went through the list of courses/classes and marked down the ones that we wanted to go to, ones we felt like we could skip over. What we didn't realize until after the first day was that the way they had it set up, if you went to all of the courses, you wouldn't have any time to go to any of the vendors.
Right. And the
vendors didn't start until
on Tuesday.
The second day at noon.
Right. So the first day was only half a day for courses because the first half of the day was sign up. And then the second day was from 9 until 6, but the exhibition center opened at noon. And so then
where the vendors were.
Where all the vendors were. And there wasn't ever a time that somebody was not presenting between 9 and 6.
Right.
And the exposition center is only open from noon until 6 and then noon to 4 on the second day. So you had to choose if you're going to go to a session or go to the exhibition center and see the vendors. And we really wanted to check out a lot of the vendors as well because that's part of what we need for our company.
There were specific things that we were hoping to find more information about.
Which we did find some.
Our photo booth, most photo booths, in fact 99% of all photo booths, I guess not 99%, 95% run Apple.
More like 99% run Apple.
There's a small percent that runs Surface Pro.
Yeah, maybe 1 to 2% run Surface Pro.
And then we are part of the 0.1% that runs Android
for our photo booth.
And so we've been trying to find an actual photo booth to hold our tablet because right now we just have like a tripod. I mean, the program, the app is great, all of that kind of stuff, but we just would like a nicer, sturdier stand to put it in. And so after the first day of classes and then realizing that we weren't going to be able to see the vendors, we talked about the classes that we had been to and what we were getting out of them.
Right. And
the description of the classes, at least from my end, the DJ end, didn't have anything to do with what the classes were about. Yeah. Like I thought I was going to learn about ways to invest your money in the industry, other ways to make money in the industry.
Right.
In one of the classes, everything was about social media, branding, and SEOs. Every class I went to was about social media, branding, and SEOs.
And that's primarily what mine focused on to a certain extent as well. Although each session hit it from slightly different standpoints or different viewpoints. So you got a little bit more from each session, but the majority of it was the same thing over and over. And then the other side was how not to get burnt out as a planner.
So after our discussion, though, that night,
right.
we basically decided that what we should have done is we should have talked to the person that does our social media, and we should have paid for her to come out.
Yes.
Because it would have been much more beneficial to her to be current on stuff in the industry than what we were getting out of it.
Yep.
And then we also decided that we were going to pick and choose classes for the
second 2 days
because there were vendors that we needed to try and get through all of the vendors because there was no map of what vendors were there. There wasn't even a listing of what all vendors were there. So you had to walk through the whole thing to make sure you didn't miss anything.
Yep. Yeah, so it was... And it was interesting to me because, again, the majority of the people that were on the planning committee for this conference are wedding planners. Hey, puppers, that's enough. All done. Thank you. We're trying to have a podcast.
This podcast isn't about you.
So the fact that it was put together and organized by wedding planners, and then in my sessions they're talking about how it's really important to have like menus on the tables and things like that, and then they didn't have a map for the exhibition center. And I'm like, how...
Well, and apparently they always have it at this exhibition center.
Oh, they have it at the Las Vegas Convention Center, yeah.
Right, and it's always a problem every year that there's not enough bathrooms for the women.
Right.
So my first day there, in between two of the sessions, I'm going to the bathroom, and I hear these three girls yell, "Sorry, guys, we need to come in and use your bathroom because the bathroom line for ours is a mile long, and we need to get to the next session." So little things like that were kind of disappointing, to say the least, about the quality of the
conference as a whole.
Itself, yes.
I think the presenters were good, but I think whoever put together...
the presenters were good. I mean, I did learn stuff, but
whoever put together the book that did the descriptions did not accurately describe what the presenters were going to present on. I think they wanted the presenter to just present what they normally present, but then put a spin on it with this topic, and then they focused on what the spin topic was, even though that was like 2 sentences out of their hour-long presentation. And so it wasn't accurately described.
Well, and they either needed to add another day or they needed to cut down on how many sessions there were so that people had time to go to all the vendors. Or provide a map so that you could find your way to the vendors and you didn't have to stop at every booth to figure out what it was. Because a lot of them, we didn't even know what they were there for.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and so then you have to stop to ask to find out why they're there, what their thing is, and then you find out you don't need any of that at all because they only focus on the Las Vegas area or something along those lines. So it was a little different, but we did get a lot of good things out of it.
Yeah.
I did learn some things that I hadn't thought of or haven't run into in our area. Like one session was specifically about trends, but the trends are in the luxury wedding things, and so we're talking a $50,000 wedding, which we don't really have here in Iowa that I've ever seen.
Yeah, all of the presenters that I went to their sessions, the weddings that they talked about doing were $50,000 to $100,000
or more,
and I just was staggered. Like their DJs billed out at $10,000 for a 6-hour event, and I'm just like,
that's how much our weddings are.
Yeah, that was insanity to me.
A lot of the weddings in our area, you can do the whole wedding for $10,000 to $15,000, and that's everything. So, yeah, it was definitely a very different kind of thing. But in that style, when she's talking about the trends, realizing that those trends are coming and they may affect some weddings that we're at, but there's also things that won't go away that she's saying are on their way out, like the mason jars kind of thing was a big thing that's out on its way out. Nobody's having mason jars anymore, and I'm like, we live in Iowa, everybody still has mason jars.
That's right. And pallets,
like that's the farm component, and that is what people like,
rustic chic,
like in this area. And I don't see it going out, but I have seen more and more kind of getting away from it. It's not the in thing, but it's still not going to go away.
I'll bet 50% of your weddings still have it.
Yes, exactly.
So I think the biggest disappointment, and again, I've been to conferences in lots of other industries. I used to own a pet store. I would go to pet conferences. In the construction industry, going to construction conferences. The biggest thing about going to these conferences, Chewbacca,
all done.
The biggest thing about going to these conferences was usually that there would be after parties. And this year there was only one really small one, and it's the after parties where you get to make connections and network with other people that are in the same, are the same vendor type that you are. So I would have made connections with other DJs. Lachelle would have made connections with other planners. And then, you can make friendships with those people and get ideas from them, even if they're, on a different part of the country. And if they're local, if they're in the same part of the country or in your state, then you can work with them.
Right.
To help each other out. Like if we're already booked and somebody needs a DJ, you can contact somebody that that's close by. That they didn't have that this year.
No, and they didn't have a way for people to connect with others that were from their area.
Yeah, the only people that we connected with was we happened to overhear people talking about stuff that we recognized of being in the industry, and we asked them if they were here for the conference.
Right.
So there was a few people at our hotel that we got to talk with and got to hang out with a little bit and learn some stuff from. But overall, we didn't make very many connections.
No, not like we have on other conferences that we've been to. But we did find some cool things that I'm looking forward to incorporating. So one of them was there's a couple different programs that we're going to check out and kind of decide between for timeline planning stuff. Where we can, right now, when you book a wedding with us, we have a booking program that also kind of keeps track of all of our clients. So then it's easy to keep track of who we're contacting and when their event is and stuff that way. But our actual timeline that we create and we send out to our couples to help them plan their day, that's just us. That's something I've created that is in a Word document that we send, and then we have to kind of keep track of that Word document. And so there's a couple programs out there that I can still take our timeline, what I've created, but put it into this online program and then send a link to the couple, and they can fill it out and make edits and things that way and then send it back to us or let us know that they filled it out. And then if they want to make changes, then it sends me updates rather than just changing it. But so then it allows the couples to have more back and forth with us on it a little bit. And it's always available online, so it's a little bit more user-friendly for both of those programs. So I'm kind of excited to test out the two programs and see which one is better, and then incorporate that in 2022 with our weddings coming up and trying to get that incorporated. So that would be one of the things that I'm really excited about. I have one other one.
Which was?
The floor pictures.
Oh, yeah.
So
that was really cool.
Yeah. So we have we do a lot of, we have the DJ stuff, and then we have things like the photo booth or oversized games or things that way that we can add on. And there was a company that we can work with that you can order whatever image, you put in the image that you want, and then it's like a vinyl decal for the floor. For the dance floor. And so it makes a specific spot then on the dance floor, this image that people can walk on, dance on. That's the whole point of it. Yep. And it just peels up from the floor, and there's no residue, nothing that way at the end of the night. It's a one-time use kind of thing, but it will add so much decor component to the space, because a lot of our spaces are kind of industrial, and so they just have that cement flooring. So this gives it much more, you don't have to rent a floor to make a different floor space or anything that way. You can just have this, and it can be an image of the couple, it can be a monogram, it could be, you know, your colors and flowers or something along those lines. Like, it could be lots of different images. And so then we're able to order that, and we could put that down for the couple. And then that can be another thing that the couple can order through us kind of idea. Yep. So I'm excited about potentially adding that into our stuff as well. We want to get a couple smaller, like 1x1 type examples that we can put on surfaces that we can take to the vendors and make sure the vendors are fine with us putting it on their floor. Again, it doesn't do anything to their floor, so they should be fine with it, but I know that they're going to be very leery to begin with to make sure that it doesn't actually cause any problems to any flooring. But then once we have that, and then we can show it to the clients in person if they have questions about it.
Right.
But he had a 10 by 20 space of flowers, and I have a picture of him standing, like just his knees down, standing on the floor, so you can kind of see the scope of it. But it really does change the look, the layout of the space because you've changed that flooring. So that I'm really excited about.
We were able to talk to some of the photo booth people about having a custom stand made that would hold our Android tablet.
Yep.
And there was a couple other vendors that we talked to. I don't want to go into too much, but there was one that we talked to about possibly doing a franchise here.
Yep.
And we looked at a music game company.
Yep.
And realized very quickly that wasn't something that would be for us.
Nope.
So, I mean, it's good to, weed things out as well as try and find things that you want to have to build your business up with. So
Yeah, no, there were things that were really good. Again, the sessions were good. The speakers were good. They just the descriptions of the speakers were not as accurate as what they could have been. So there were things that I think I probably would have enjoyed. Some of the sessions that you went to, I probably would have enjoyed more than what I went to, and vice versa.
Yeah, I would have rather had workshop type sessions where you're learning something about the thing and not.
Right.
I mean, you only need to be told that you've got to, brand yourself and be on social media. And
that was like the
so
theme
many times.
This year was branding, how to brand yourself, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so overall, I think
let's go brand yourself.
No, right, brand yourself. I think overall it was a good experience. I don't know that it's a conference that I would be like, oh yeah, we need to go every year.
Right.
But going at least once, maybe going in a couple years, taking social media if we have like a staff, maybe kind of thing, because then that helps them understand that there's a bigger picture kind of idea.
I wonder if they have a session on how to keep your dogs from making noise during the podcast.
Yeah, maybe we need to create, except we're failing at it currently right now.
I think the squirt gun is
you
probably the best
think
bet.
So? Yeah, maybe.
They're up and ready to be out of the kennel.
They are ready to be out of the kennel. That is part of the issue, yes.
So we will probably have more updates as we get stuff, as we bring stuff in about the conference.
Yeah.
And when you finish the class and get certified, whatever.
Yeah, I just have to fill out the feedback form, which they call a test, which is basically a reflection form. I need to fill that out and email it in to get the final certification. But I've done all of the classes, so that's not a big issue. It's just a matter of filling that out. But then that will actually be up on our site, so I will be certified in planning. And, again, I already knew how to plan, but this is one more kind of feather in the cap kind of idea, I guess.
Again, completely different type of conference than the one we went to before.
Yes.
Maybe the next conference we need to go to is about podcasts.
Maybe. It'll be interesting. So, anyway, if you're curious about stuff, feel free to ask us questions. We're happy to chat and talk more about it. If you are curious about more about Star Entertainment, which again, thank you to Star Entertainment for helping sponsor this podcast. We're happy to chat with you about Star Entertainment and the events that we do, especially if you're in the Iowa City area, but we do travel. So let us know.
Yes.
even if you're in some other complete different area, we may be able to work something out and come to you. We love to travel. So anything else that we should cover?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, that's all for this session. Thanks for joining us. We hope you had a good time.
Take care.
We'll see you next time.